All right, welcome all to day 14, our second to last day of Dome Fest West's Metaverse Summer Series for 2023. We've had just some of the most incredible conversations for the last 2 weeks, and today is absolutely no different. Today, we actually have two people to join us, which we're very excited about. We have Lucy Boyd Wilson, the director, and Barry Lockwood, the composer of Earth, Tree, and Sky. Everyone, give them a round of applause. Hey,
Yeah.
Lucy. Hey, Barry.
Thank you.
Hello. Really happy to
Hello.
be here.
Well, we're stoked to have you both. Before we jump in, is there anything you'd like to say before we start the screening? Any preface or any information you'd like to share?
Yeah, just quickly. Well, first of all, wonderful to be here, and so cool to see friendly faces, friendly avatars. But yeah, so this was my first Dome film, and I created it last year, and it showed in a handful of Dome film festivals, including Dome Fest West. It was created in virtual reality, and the intention is that one would be standing and able to turn around and see all around you. So even though nobody here is actually in a headset, feel free to kind of turn around so that you can. I don't know. That's the intention, to be able to turn around and experience it all around you. That's the only thing I need to say right now.
Awesome. So to clarify, it's omnidirectional instead of maybe a single point of a sweet spot, as they call it in domes. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean there is a front facing, which I guess I give it more attention, but honestly, it was the intention to be able to really turn around, and so yeah, omnidirectional. So
Awesome. Great. Barry, anything about the soundtrack, the music you'd like to share before we screen?
Well, I think for the most part, I feel like the music is something that, I like when people experience music without bringing having too many preconceptions going into it. So I think that's okay. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And it's just great to be here and getting to experience this film in this space.
Awesome. Great. Well, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get this set up and screen the film Earth, Tree, Sky. All right, that is amazing. Lucy, Barry, can you come back up to the front?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
So peaceful and so magical. I'm gonna go ahead and play the video here muted in the background so that if you want to reference the video while you're kind of sharing a little bit of your process and your thoughts, you're welcome to. And yeah, we just really look forward to this conversation with both of you. And I want to invite the audience. If you do have questions, you can drop them in the chat, and there will also be a time a little bit later where we'll invite you to ask your questions directly. But Lucy, let's start here with you, and just I guess start at the very beginning. What inspired you to create Earth, Tree, Sky, and yeah, where did this film come from?
Well, so I grew up in England, very rural, and spent many years running around in fields and woods and completely surrounded by leaves and grasses and sticks and making hiding places and in the woods and stuff. So I guess everything that I'm trying to express is about being immersed in environments like that, and and to feel that we belong there. And also in recent years, there's been such interesting research and information about what happens underground and roots and the information and nutrients and water and that is transmitted through roots, and that trees and plants communicate with each other with this information, and the communication reach is extended by the fungal networks as well. So that is just such an amazing concept. And as land animals, we run around on the surface, on the earth, and are completely unaware of what's underground. So to be in a small way trying to express that and imagine that, the whole rich living underworld, it was very exciting for me to try to express that.
Yeah, and it's really cool how you start there. You take us up through the tree, through the leaves, up into the sky, and then back down. And the music plays such an important role. Did you have this music in mind when you set out with this, or was it kind of a joint collaboration with Barry that the music came as you produced?
It was very much a journey created by Barry. I had certain ideas in mind, especially for the underground part, but he made it so much more interesting than what was in my mind. So yeah, I'll let Barry speak to that.
Yep. Barry, you want to share a little
Yeah.
bit of where the concepts for the music came from? Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like the music was really informed by Lucy's vision for the project, and we talked a few times about um, what the project meant for her, and what we were expressing, and um, I guess that definitely went into what music is on the piece. Um, and kind of expressing um, emotions that, I mean, also, I go hiking, and I like being outside in nature, and so also some of that went into the music. Um,
Did the
yeah.
did the visuals, so you guys had a storyline essentially a little bit, or a concept that you then started working independently, or what kind of came first, if I can ask?
See,
Yeah.
the visuals came first. I
Yeah.
had a rough progression of the visuals. Except for the very ending was undecided for quite a while. But the roots and the grasses and the tree and the leaves and up into the tree and back down again. That was there kind of early on, and Barry journeyed far and wide with the music. It really developed beautifully through over a month or two.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Barry, do you want to talk about receiving these early materials and where the inspiration for kind of the sounds progression came from?
Sure. Yeah, I think I mean part of it came from just um, I started with like a rough um, animation of what the piece would look like, and so a lot of it came from that. Um, and I guess I, I I don't know if Lucy, this is what you're referring to, but I know definitely earlier on um, I kind of took the images and interpreted them and came out with some music that was a little more um, not as as a little uh, foreboding in the beginning, and kind of it was a more drastic transition, and we kind of talked about like um, what that I guess yeah, talked about the emotions in that part of the piece, and um, and changed
It,
direction a little bit there.
there was a funny moment when he saw the roots, these top roots are coming down, and he was like, expressed me after. He's like, "Oh, cool! This is so creepy. Oh my goodness!" He really was like enjoying the being creepy and macabre and alien,
Yeah.
and his first version of music was kind of expressing that, and I was like, "Oh." It needs to be like grounded in meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
turnaround. That moment. We laugh about it afterwards.
Yeah. Because it felt like, you know, um, I think something that I found kind of interesting about the piece and about nature in general is that there's some part of it that's kind of unknowable. I think that's like kind of attractive. Like when you go and see, like I was at the beach the other day, and there were these sea lions, playing. I think they were playing in the ocean. Thing is, I don't really know what they're doing, and some part of these other creatures is unknowable, and I find that really cool, really interesting.
Hmm.
Awesome. Can you go through, Lucy, a little bit of some of the production challenges, and then we'll get into kind of how you actually went through and produced this piece. But maybe just right off the bat, what were some of the biggest challenges in getting this from idea to screen?
I mean, there were various sort of technical challenges that I hadn't had to deal with before, like a fisheye dome projection and high resolution, like 4K or 6K generation, and getting text onto a sphere. That was a challenge, but I think the main ongoing sort of concern I had throughout the development was I'd never created a dome film before, and I'd only ever seen one once before. And I really was uncertain and feeling insecure about the speed and how fast it should be and whether it would be comfortable. And I was creating it in VR, and that was always the first vision I had of it. As developed it in VR, it's all around me, and then I would generate the full dome round image and map it onto a VR dome half sphere, and then I would test it in a VR dome. But and I was able to do that testing, and now I know that it's actually a very good way to test, and it's pretty representative of being in a real dome as far as speed and pacing goes. But I didn't know that at the time, and I was really like, oh no, maybe it needs to be even slower, even slower. So I was feeling very cautious about it, and this is very maybe it's like VR pacing. Now, having seen everybody else's films, and there's all kinds of movement and motion and traditional video, like film techniques of cutting and turning and all kinds of stuff. Now I know it's you can really create with much more dynamic movement. But that was my big concern throughout.
Yeah, we will get to pacing in a minute. I love that that you brought that up, and it really is an important discussion to have on a per project basis. But yeah, Barry, do you want to talk about a little bit of the challenges you had during your side of the production process as well?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, many aspects of this were new to me. Lucy and I had collaborated on a couple of VR projects, but it wasn't really this involved. So I learned a lot about working with, well, with Unity and working with the software, and it was really cool. I mean, I have a computer science background, so getting to use some of that in this project was really neat. Um, and yeah, it was a challenge, but it's also really rewarding and really cool.
Yeah, that was really unusual, to work with Barry, who's working with music and a composer and audio designer, and yet he's able to jump into Unity and even make some modifications to code that supports the music or the testing setup or whatever. It's like that's unusual to be able to work with a composer in that way, in Unity, with Unity. So appreciated that about Barry.
Yeah, and maybe we can jump into that. Or Barry, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I appreciated that Lucy was willing to like share the project with me so that I could also make changes to it. It was great.
Right.
Yeah. Do you mind both of you kind of sharing a little bit of the nuts and bolts thing? Is that we do have also some filmmakers and fulldome creators in the audience. How did you guys end up making this? Was this starting in Maya? Is this a game engine, or how did you guys end up creating this?
It's Unity. It's really Unity is my main development environment. Unity is a game engine, and yeah, the modeling I do in other tools like Blender and some Gravity Sketch, which is a VR modeling tool, and bring everything into Unity. But the main development is happening in Unity for me. And so I developed the shaders that I need to get that look for the roots and the fungal roots, and then get that painterly effect, and particles and code. I write whatever code I need. Nothing very elaborate. Just whatever is needed, and yeah. Unity is where I live and breathe in developing something, and hardly anything done in post production using video tools. That's not my world. So yeah, I do the titles in a video editing thing, but mostly I'm doing everything in Unity.
That's so awesome to hear that. Yeah, you're working in Unity. I know that before this series, it seemed like not many creators were working in Unity, but throughout the series, I personally have learned that there are so many cool things that you can do with Unity, and things that are being done. Lucy, you're a great example. Yeah, this is something that you would maybe expect more to come out of Unreal if you're untrained, but here you're able to get really great cinematic looking elements out of Unity. Was there any additional like plugins or post processing that you had to do besides kind of just dropping in the fulldome capture device, or how did you get the image out?
I used some code that I found. I think it's called fulldome for Unity, and that renders out the round fulldome format. So I was able to use that, and very much appreciated discovering that. I tried like four different plugins and ways to render the full dome image, and finally that was definitely the one that worked for me. And other than that, no, I can't think of any other plugins. Mostly I kind of developed the shaders and stuff myself, shaders and code and what have you myself.
You had to do a lot of that manually.
Yeah, I like to get my own look, like getting the roots to grow. That's my own shader, and then I write code to animate that shader and so on. Yeah. Is it playing for you? It's not playing for me.
Oh, is it paused? Here, let's try to resync. Did it now come back on, Lucy?
No. Shoot. Okay.
It's still playing on the recorder. So maybe if you want to refresh, but it is still animating behind you.
Okay. All right. It's fine. I know what it looks like.
Well, if you want to just refresh real quick, we can turn this to Barry. Yeah, Barry, do you want to share a little tiny bit your production process? I'm guessing you didn't make this soundtrack in Unity, or did you?
I didn't. I worked with Unity. First, I created. I mean, it is created in layers. So I think we've been running it in a fixed time frame, but in theory, you should be able to extend it or shrink it, and the layers will kind of fix themselves so that the music will it won't it won't like speed up the music like you're speeding up a tape. It's more like the music will move through each section faster. Um, and that was in Unity. That was really fun to work with. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I did write pretty much all of this in the computer. Um, I guess I come from a back, like I have some music uh, training, I guess. So I do like to write the music down first and then put things into the computer. But yeah, I think that's the process generally.
Awesome. So this actually the pieces blend together based off of where in the experience the viewer is in Unity as well,
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
VR version.
yes, yeah. A lot like I guess I think the closest analogy is like if you're in a video game and you're moving from room to room, the music might change as you like step through the door. I don't think that the triggering is that complex, but yeah, it is based on where you are in the piece.
Right.
Wow. And
Pretty,
Lucy,
it was really fun to do that.
well, yeah, no, that's something I haven't heard about, and I think that's something that kind of maybe more useful in like an interactive experience, like doing it in a VR headset. Lucy, can you share a little tiny bit about how um, this it originally was designed? Because I understand this was converted to full dome from a VR experience, or can you give us a little more context around that?
Right. I mean, the the initial intention was to create a dome piece, but I work in VR. I mean, this is sort of so to me, like, okay, I'm going to do a dome thing, and it's going to be completely surrounding me. So therefore, clearly, I'm going to develop it in VR. That's the way to for me to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I create something in VR or to I do think of it in a spatial way, and um, and I guess spatial, and also it was important for me that it was going to be a 6-minute piece, but it was also important for me to be able to show a 2-minute version or a 3-minute version, and to have that variable timing, so that I can just generate a 2-minute version to show to an artist group or a critique group and get some quick feedback, and um, and therefore to have the music variable in that respect. And like, to me, that's normal, coming from game development and VR, where nothing's necessarily like a fixed length. I'm not familiar with working with fixed length pieces, and I'm realizing after the fact that that's kind of really unnatural for many or most composers who are creating music. And I'm really
Yeah.
like, sorry,
Yeah, Barry, do
Barry.
you want to jump in?
No. Yeah, I
Saying that.
thought that was really funny because like I am used to like writing music that does have a fixed length, and like with this piece and like uh pretty much everything else I've done, um there's like a progression, like the music progresses and it's in a certain place for a certain length of time, and then something happens. Like I'm used to music that's very structured. So it was like just it was cool. It's like a unique challenge to write music that is structured and isn't at the same time. Um, and yeah, I think a lot of the time, I mean, I haven't done very many of this kind of project. I think a lot of the time, if there is dynamic music, it tends to um, u- use um, musical sections that are a little less structured, like a loop or um, I don't know, things like loops, kind of like uh, drones, and it was pretty cool to try to make something that was structured, that had like melodic structure and development, and still be very flexible.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something normally composers like to hear when it's like, how long does it need to be? Well, it depends.
I
Yeah,
know, terrible.
No, it's just a challenge, Lucy. You
yeah,
challenge. That's all it is.
it's
And you
fun.
both have done a wonderful job at kind of tying that together. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to rewatch this again now, knowing that the music is uh, kind of more tied to the environment than it is linear. And if anything, that really fits well within the conversation that we were having on a panel at the Stars for All conference this summer in Tennessee, where all of the planetarium associations got together, and we had a chance to sit them down and ask, what do you want in planetarium shows that like you will be interested in buying? And one of the biggest pieces of feedback was that they wanted the ability for there to be some sort of like interactivity where you could just pause it and let whatever's happening happen in the background while the presenter shares additional information, and that way they can kind of control what parts the audience engaging with, and they can provide additional details that might be interesting to audiences. So you actually might be kind of moving in the right direction, where these experiences, of course this isn't a star show, but you could probably put together something like this that explains maybe the different layers of galaxies, and have a lot of people interested because it has that interactivity, and you've already learned how to make the music correspond to the scene rather than
Oh,
the opposite. And so there's just, I think you're touching on something really really cool there, and something that's already kind of being talked about in the industry as being wanted. So anyway, sorry that that was a little bit of a monologue. Let's jump back into the
that's
questions.
cool.
Uh, can you talk, Lucy, a little bit about your decision for it to be a full dome film, and to use immersive technology, specifically like an immersive theater, to showcase this experience?
um, well, everything that I express, I try to express it in an immersive way. To me, immersion is I'm actually talking about the larger other immersive mediums as well as Dome, because I want to place the viewer in the center of the environment and to have the viewer really feel that they are part of this larger world and that they're a small part of the world and belong in the world and have that familiarity and that, you know, each of us and all the other creatures and plants and insects, we're all living and breathing in our, you know, wonderful, huge, complex and subtle environments. So for me, immersion and immersive media is a really important way to get that sensation. Because immersion is a feeling. To feel it all around you is a different feeling from watching a movie that's in front of you. So immersive media is important for me, how I want to express. And so VR is good, and a full dome was a wonderful next step, to have it, you know, a shared audience in a dome. And I'm interested in other types of immersive venues as well. So that's why I use immersion and immersive media. I want the viewer to be in the center and to be able to turn around and look at it from all around. So that's kind of an important point for me.
Barry, can you share a little bit of how your thoughts behind making the sound immersive to fit kind of like the experience or the venue?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would just like to echo what Lucy said first of all about like it really like having people feel like they're in a world that is filled with they're part of a larger environment. Ah, I love that. Um, and I think I don't have a lot of the um, well, at the time of making this piece, I didn't really have a lot of the um, software or like technology to create something that was very surround sound or anything like that. But um, I tried to work with the stereo field and placing sound in a way that sounds like it's coming from one direction or another, um, using what I had available. And
Did you
yeah.
have a chance to test that in kind of like I mean, I guess you tested it in Unity.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, actually, I did a lot of that outside of Unity, but I didn't really get a chance to hear it. Like I heard it on, my headphones and on my speakers, and I said, "Well, I think that does what I'm trying to do," and I didn't really get to see how well it worked or not until, we were in the actual dome, listening to it. And I don't, I think there might be software in the dome that helps translate stereo into dome sound, but I thought it turned out okay. That was pretty neat.
Me too. I thought it turned out
Yeah.
great.
So I apologize. There's an alarm going off in the background. I'll type the question in the chat. There's a fire alarm in my apartment for some weird reason. One second.
I think Ryan's writing in the chat.
Yeah.
What sort of feeling were you
Nice.
hoping to give audiences while watching this? Well, I had a couple of endings in mind that I was considering, and one was a strong environmental message, but it's not the message that I ended with. And in the end, you know, journeying through this whole scene from roots to grasses and leaves and then back down again, and gradually the tree turns white and slowly dissolves into white, um, and just dissolves back into what I call the universal webbing. And the kind of message which is subtle and not necessarily one that anyone would pick up, but was that, you know, every living entity, you know, any of us, animals, insects, plants, trees, we ultimately will all, like, you know, quietly dissolve and disappear into that universal webbing. That we have that in common with even the plants, and for us to sort of feel that universal reality of our mortality is kind of something I had in mind for this, but I don't expect it to be obvious. Like, you know, maybe like a poem that's not obvious and that you can, you know, watch, you read a poem several times and then you come to your own interpretation or your own meaning of it. I kind of, yeah, something like that. That's what I was thinking about this, and just like that final, after a lot of busyness, return to a moment of quietness.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Cool.
Is there, can you discuss the role of the audience a little bit in the immersive film? You're putting them at the center of the media. Is there a role for the audience to play in these type of experiences?
Um, yeah, I'm finding it so interesting. It's like, you know, in developing this, I developed it in VR, and in VR you're right up close to the roots and the grasses and the leaves, and it's like in your face VR, in your face. You know, it's all around you, close around you, and that's one experience. And then it's on a dome, and I'm realizing, and you know, I developed it so that you know, with the intention of being able to be in the center and to look around. Um, but then the first time I see it in a dome, I'm realizing, oh, I mean, it's so cool to be there in an audience, a shared experience in an audience, but I'm sitting back and I'm immobile, and it's not easy to turn around. And I kind of sit up in my seat and awkwardly turn, but it's not what I had intended. And to be able to show it in a dome where people are standing and it's not a seated audience. I mean, seated audience is very cool in that it's shared, but to be a standing audience where everybody is standing and able to turn at will and encounter each other while they're, you know, seeing the film is a whole different kind of audience experience. And then you take that one step further, and many of the wonderful pieces that we're seeing are, you know, like dance music and VJ and DJ, and the intention is possibly that you're in an audience where everybody's dancing and enjoying the visuals and the music, and that's a whole other kind of audience experience. So I'm finding how important it is, or or different it is to have these different types of audience set up. And for this piece, I would have loved to show it in a standing dome, not seated, and to have that way that you can be moving around and in a quiet way encountering other people in the room, in the space.
The acknowledgement of other people in the room is something that, yes, you don't normally get in immersive media. So that's really cool how you're kind of taking that into account and planning for it. Was there, we kind of touched on this a little bit before when I had that weird alarm going off, and apologies for that in the background. But yeah, was there something very specific that you wanted to make viewers feel? You kind of talked about it not being in early miscommunication between you two, not being a horror piece, but it being meditative instead. Could you talk about that decision and the deliberateness of that decision?
Um, yeah, for me, it's like to feel like it's a journey, and it's this journey from being underground and the busyness of the roots and the the flickering of information or light through the roots and the busyness of the grass and through the tree and the flowing leaves, and it's very active. Um, and then to come down through the sort of changing colors of the leaves, and everything just slows right down and then slowly disappears, just to land in that like stillness, like the stillness between breaths, and like you've really journeyed, like a life, like the lifetime of all of us as creatures, going through the busyness of life and procreation and feeding and surviving and this, that, but then to finally, end in stillness. That's what I want people to feel.
It's awesome, a whole lifetime. Yeah, Barry, how did you tackle that in making sure that came through in the music?
Oh man. Well, I guess one thing that I feel like I don't know if Lucy, I don't want to steal your thunder or anything. Um,
Go
I
for
think
it.
one. Okay, all right. Yeah, one thing that I feel like this piece um, expresses that's kind of unique to the immersive part of it is that you're kind of experiencing the whole the tree as like a being, like a whole, like you can like in a way that you can kind of you c it's hard to experience a tree in real life this way. Like, you could stand next to a tree or sit by it or look at it, but you can't really explore the roots and explore the branches and um, I feel like that's something that's really cool and unique to this experience. Um, and I guess no, that doesn't. I guess, but you were asking about tying in that life cycle. I think part of it is like the um, drone continues on after the tree has faded away. It's really something that is an expression of like some kind of universal um, some kind of uh, the what did you call it? Like the webbing of the of you had a name for it. But it's like an expression of like a something universal that ties everything together that is ever present.
And I like to say, I really think that the music really lands us in like the lands us in that place of stillness. So love what you did with the music, Barry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I
Mhm.
was really inspired by the piece.
You both have done a fantastic job. I've got a few questions left, but I wanted to turn it over to our attendees. If there's anyone that has any questions, this is your chance to unmute yourself and just jump right into the conversation. And yeah, feel free. I'm going to continue with this next question, but yeah, if anyone has questions, go ahead and just speak up. Um, Lucy, can you talk about your process for creating the visual effects and the overall aesthetic? You had to create your own shaders, so clearly you had a goal in mind. How did you go about that? What was your process?
Um, I um, yeah, what is the complexity for roots and trees on branches and stuff? I didn't want anything looking too solid, so I wanted that painterly effect. like dry brush strokes almost, even though it's three-dimensional, it still has a sort of a painterly effect. Like it's not quite solid, and the particles are all part of expressing the flow. Everything's flowing, um, and the grasses, nothing's rooted. Everything's sort of floating and coming and going throughout. Everything's sort of coming and going. So that was what I was looking for and doing.
Nice. Was the aesthetic something you understood from the very beginning, or was it something you developed through kind of creating the models and the shapes?
Um, I had used some of this aesthetic in previous explorations, um, but yeah, and just developed it further and pushed it further, fine
Mm,
tuned it.
that's awesome. And can let's jump into actually the point about pacing. And this is where Barry, we're also going to come to you on this. I don't think you get out of
Okay.
this. Um, about pacing, specifically in this case, Lucy, about the camera movement and your choice of like the particles, like how long they last. That is very important of kind of carrying people from one environment to another. But then Barry, definitely we want to take that question right to you after, and how you intentionally set that up in the music, and yeah, how your thought, how important pacing is for these immersive experiences. But Lucy, let's go ahead and have you in the hot seat first. Yeah. What talk about the importance of pacing in Earth, Tree, Sky?
Yeah, so yeah, as I said before, it's like I was so concerned about the camera movement being too fast and so on, and so it ended up very slow, very slow, and maybe I still question when it's being viewed on a monitor and front facing, maybe it's too slow, but I still ask myself that. But when you're standing in the middle of it and it's actually immersive and all around you, whether it's VR or in a dome, and you're able to look around and want to look around, I don't feel like it's too slow. There's really a lot of activity going on. There's with the flickering of the roots and the grasses and the leaves and so on. It's active. There's a lot of stuff to look at. Um, so it actually feels like a pretty good speed. Um, so that's, even though I had a lot of question around it, I think for the intended way that I'd want it to be seen, I think it's appropriate. So that's for the camera move. And
The
yeah, all the other pacing or movements, the flowing of the leaves. It's true. I tuned it in a certain way. There were moments that the leaves were flowing faster or lasting longer, and I tuned it down to what I felt was a good feel.
That's awesome. Yeah, Barry, it's your turn. The pacing and the music, kind of knowing that these would be environments experienced dynamically, kind of at the viewer's whim. How important was thinking through the pacing of the musical environments? Well, actually, first let's just
Yeah.
establish vocabulary. What did you call the different phases of music that you would go through? Was there a term you came
Hmm.
up with?
I guess they were. I didn't. There wasn't. But we could call them like scenes, maybe like
Scenes.
different
Okay.
scenes.
Let's go with
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Can you talk about the importance of pacing in between the scenes, specific to immersive media?
Yeah. I think one of the challenges in that I've kind of run into with making music for immersive media is that you have to be very conscious of the viewer, and um, the viewer needs, um, I guess I would say, there's only so much information they can process at one time. So and an immersive experience is a lot of information. So I think you have, or at least I've found that I had to um, kind of, I guess, like be gentle with the viewer. And I think it's kind of similar to other, like there are different types of music for different kinds of media, and with an immersive experience, the music can't be. y- I was about to say it can't be too jarring, but I think it's more a matter of how you employ the jarringness.
Mm.
um, it's just the viewer needs. Well, maybe I think I could use an example from another project that Lucy and I worked on, where I had music that had um, I think it was too much activity, and so it would be disorienting for the person in the VR experience because it makes it hard for them to place themselves, um, like orient themselves and in the scene.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Well,
Yeah.
you've done a great job, whether it's too fast, too slow. I think that is completely something we can debate for many years to come. But the impact that at the speed you have decided, the impact definitely comes through. Can you can you detail a little bit about maybe what's been the most rewarding part of making this experience for each of you? Lucy, do you want to jump in first?
I say working with Barry, journeying with Barry, and how it came together, and and also I think coming up with the ending. The ending was undetermined for quite a long time, and I was like, the decision for it to all turn white and disappear was undecided, and um, and I was happy to come to that.
Kind of a magical thing that
Uh,
came out of it.
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
I'd
Yeah.
say
Barry?
that's. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'd say the same. Collaborating, or maybe it's not the same. Likewise, collaborating with Lucy, I love her work. She's very talented and is also a very nice, awesome person, and it's just great. And I think actually to that ending, I didn't really see the ending until it it was done, but it felt very natural, and it just made a lot of sense to me. Um, and also, working since this was such a new thing for me, it was it was really fun, like re- um, kind of solving the puzzles that came out of working with a new kind of project.
Hmm.
The creative challenges that allowed you to make
Yeah.
diamonds out of pressure.
Right.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's because I guess I feel like a lot of music is, maybe this is because I'm also a computer person, but a lot of music is finding puzzle pieces that fit. Um, and this was just a new, it was just great. Yeah, a new puzzle that was really cool.
Well, that is an awesome thing to have. Yeah, a challenge, a puzzle, a timeline, a deadline, all of those things. Super motivating, funny enough. Um, do we want to open it up one more time? Is there anybody out there in the audience that has any questions? Just go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask Lucy or Barry directly.
Ryan, I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think after sitting here watching this play in the background through the whole conversation, something that occurred to me, like when we were talking about the timing and the flow, is if you were to imagine this as like one single camera, in a movie, there's no cuts. It just flows from the beginning to the end. How impossible that would be to probably, capture the attention of a viewer through the entire, scene here without doing any cuts or any takeaways or zoom in or zoom out. There's just a constant movement. And I think the music adds to that. I think so what they've done with that one kind of camera flowing in and out of this scene is just beautifully executed by both of them.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Larry.
wow.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Agreed. Yeah, it reminds me of. There's a number of projects that try to do single takes, but what is it? The Russian Ark, which is one of the few projects that is actually one single take, and you could do it interestingly. But yeah, how you tell a story, it seems to work better as maybe a surreal experience. But this feels almost grounded in some way. I mean, it's haha Earth, we are grounded. Yeah. But like if there's something, maybe it's like that you recognize the elements that make it kind of feel like there's a progression, even though there isn't a direct narrative. I don't know. I'm open to thoughts, and maybe Lucy, that was something intentional where you wanted to let people bring their own associations through these icons and objects.
Well, there's that, but the decision to do a single camera pass is honestly, it's like VR is more my medium than video editing or filmmaking. I don't come from a filmmaking background. I just don't think about camera cuts and storytelling in that way. I think about being in an environment and moving through it. And so honestly, I think of that as like, oh my goodness, I am so lacking in my background, having no video editing or filmmaking background. And I see other people's films just using a wealth of cinematography and other types of visual language. And I'm just coming from VR. So that's why there aren't any cuts and things. It's not complex in that way. But I also, when I create something, I'm thinking of it in terms of it becoming interactive, or it also being a VR piece, or it being shown in a different type of immersive environment. And I'm not really thinking about it being a film. So yeah.
Hey, could I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not quite a question, but I really love the concept of, like you're sort of in the presence of something sacred, the tree, and what Barry named it as a sort of a being, I think. And the idea that like to have other people all sharing in this sort of mystical moment, which makes things more sacred, I think, when it's kind of shared. I think it's really a nice concept to really hone in on that vision for it, because I think it does make it more of a sacred thing, kind of like if you're in the middle of the woods and it's just so magical to be in it and really explore it, but quietly with others who are all in awe of it. I really see that being a perfect way to express what you've created. And anyway, I guess I didn't have a question, but it's nice hearing.
Yeah, it leans Lucy Berry. This film leans really well into what the dome does better than oftentimes like cinemas, traditional 16:9 cinemas, is that this is an experience that you don't have to have cuts. It's not an environment that you jump from one place to another. And yeah, it's something you can experience together as a group in awe, just moving together. You really take all of these kind of elements that experiential cinema, if you want to call it spatial cinema, the basics that we understand of them right now, you do very well.
Thank you.
Wow.
Any last questions, comments? Well, I've got one more question, and it's for both of you. It's kind of your own fault that you're now in this spot where you've created something really great, and now you've got to figure out what you're going to do next. So, Lucy, Barry, can you share a little tiny bit of things we can, look forward to coming from you both?
Well, for sure, I'd love to explore further, and with a standing dome where people can stand and move around, or other types of immersive venues with walls, projectional walls and floor. Projecting on the floor has a whole different feel, and that would be really exciting to me. Another, oh, Ryan, if well, I'm sure you're going to be continuing doing the metaverse in the future, next year, and so on. If we could please have the ability to, as well as doing the above dome, have the underdome, because here we are in the metaverse, we can do anything, right? We're not limited by physics. We don't need a floor. We could have a transparent floor and actually be in an animated sphere.
Yes, very true.
Love that, because and as the original VR experience, there's no floor, and as we're floating up through the tree and you look down, you're looking down all the way through the roots. Seeing it as a dome is only half the experience. So here in the metaverse, we could actually do that, allow filmmakers to have the above dome and the below dome if they wanted to. So that's one idea. And the other thing is interactivity is super important for me as part of the immersion. Being immersed and being surrounded is one thing, but being able to interact as well, that validates the viewer in a whole different way, to reach out and see your impact on the art and know that you're part of it, and becoming part of the artwork, or in the same way that how important it is to know that we impact our environment. And as we walk through the woods and we make a sound and some small creature is alarmed and runs off through the bushes wrestling, it's like, oh, I had that impact. So interactivity is part of immersion for me. So I definitely want to be exploring more interactive experiences.
Sounds awesome. And yeah, we'll put that suggestion in the comment box for the new metaverse land that we hopefully can be developing soon. Thank you, Lucy. That's very exciting. Barry, your turn. What can we expect next? Or is there anything that you're working on?
Yeah, I don't have a specific project, but I definitely plan on doing more immersive projects in the future. And I'm really looking forward to experimenting more with immersive sound, and also I have done some interactive art that wasn't really dome or VR experiences, and I'm gonna keep doing more immersive projects. It was really great meeting people at the Dome Fest Dome Fest West, and it's just a really cool community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's cool because we've got cool people like you joining it, and awesome people that have already started doing amazing work. I do want to shout out to Barbara here, who actually heads up the Glendale Planetarium here in Los Angeles and has been doing incredible work. and yeah, we love the planetariums. We love the new immersive theaters that Cosm and Madison Square Garden are building. It's just an exciting time in immersive media. And yeah, two of the best animators in the biz here up on stage. And yeah, just want to say thank you again so much to Lucy and to Barry Lockwood, just for sharing your passion, your insight, and your magical creation here with us. Yeah, just thank you so much for your time. And we'll go ahead and end the Q&A here. We want to invite everyone back for tomorrow night's closing party. It's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So it'll be a little bit later for everyone on the Europe or across the Atlantic side. Sorry about that, but it is going to be our closing party. We've got 2 screenings, films specifically made by the amazing Michael Strauss, who's very well-known DJ VJ in the Dome space. His films A New Vision and In the Province of the Mind will be screening then. And also we'll be closing out with some party dance music, Dome visualizations. So please come hang out with us and celebrate all of the creators that have just made this 2-week event so fantastic and so insightful. Thank you again so much, Lucy, Barry, and everyone else. Yeah, hope to see you tomorrow night and hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume back up here on Earth, Tree, and Sky. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
To